Okay, we're live. This is amazing. I'm super excited today. I've been excited every week that we've done this, but look at how many of us there are. We've got 6 of us today, 6 storytellers with you all. And yeah, we've got a repeat storytellers from previous weeks. And then we also have a wonderful new guest storyteller with us today. So welcome, Luke from Project Rewild. It's great to have you here. Luke's been doing some storytelling projects through, Project Rewild's social media and things like that. And I caught wind of that and thought it would be so awesome to have Luke join us for the live stream as well. So we're really excited to have Luke with us today. And then we have Landere, who joined us as our guest storyteller last week, who's back for another round. So happy to have you here. And we have Teague, who's now back for week 3, right? You were a guest storyteller 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And then Danny and Chris, who've been with me from the start when we decided to kick off this project. So thank you both for being here. And to all of you out there who are watching us live, it's been wonderful to have everybody with us week to week, and those who also catch up with the video later and leave your comments. It's been such a wonderful way to stay connected with each other and also just learn from each other about storytelling, and share in a moment of, I guess, slowing down. Stories have such a powerful way of connecting people and just providing us a moment to reflect. So deeply grateful to have this live stream in the way that it's been. And I'm seeing a couple comments showing up now. So I just want to say hi to Nat and hi, Jim. Thank you so much for being here. If you're joining us live, please leave a comment letting us know you're here. Maybe tell us where you are in the world. It's always great to know how we're all connected, even though we're in vast different places. So as you might have seen from the post that we put out this week, we have been doing these weekly. And this is the last time we're going to do it on a weekly basis. And that doesn't mean we're going to stop doing the live streams, but we think we're going to just take it forward in a slightly different way. If you have ideas or feedback on what you'd like to see from these live streams in the future, how we might shift, change them, or provide some other way of connecting through storytelling, please let us know, leave a comment. And if you want to stay up to date with how we move forward with this, I would just suggest probably the best thing is to sign up to my newsletter on my Forest Schooled website, because I'll make any announcements through that by email. So if you're not already subscribed to the Forest Schooled newsletter, just head to my website, www.forestschooled.com. And that's a way to stay up to date with how we move forward with this special project. So I think that's all of my sort of like housekeeping items for the day. We're going to tell probably 4 stories today. So not all of us might necessarily get to a story unless we're super quick. We'll see how that goes. But we're all going to join in for each discussion after each story to have a little bit of time to see what the story meant to us, what ideas come to us, how we're inspired by it, how it connects us to the natural world. So, and hello to Forever Green Forest School. Thanks for coming back, and Alice and Daryl. That's awesome. Great to have you all here. So if you've just joined us, please leave a comment. Let us know where you are. And we do want to make this interactive too. So as stories are being told or as discussions are had, definitely join in with your comments, and we'll bring them into our discussions too, so you're a part of it as well. All right, before we get going, I just want to open it up to anyone. Does anyone want to say anything, say hello, or any special comments from our storytellers here?
Hi, everyone. Great to see all the regular names there. So welcome back.
Yeah, no, hi. It's just an honour to join everyone. Really looking forward to being a part of this today.
Yeah, nice to have you along.
Mm-hmm.
Make a good crowd. Yeah.
Hey, Lucas and Lily and Daryl.
Oh, awesome. Great. Okay, well, with that, we've been having wonderful moments of sort of bringing us all together to start these off before we launch into stories. And Chris is here with us and is going to start us off today. If you're ready for that, Chris.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. I'd like to just before I do a little a bigger scale thing, I'd love to go around the circle, starting with Caylin, Teague, Luke, Landere, and Danny. Just for us each to share something that we're grateful for today. And if I start, then I just say I'm grateful for the time outside in the sun with playing with some kids this afternoon in school that I work in. It was good to have that sort of social interaction today. Yeah, Caylin, what are you grateful for this morning or afternoon?
I'm really grateful for, I often bring this mug, but there's something special in this mug today. I harvested dandelions and roasted the dandelion root and made the tea this morning through a recipe shared to me by Landere. I can point to the and it's the first time I've tried my own homemade dandelion root tea, and it's delicious. So thank you.
Cool. Teague.
Yeah, I am grateful for the view out of my window here. I can see a lot of beautiful birds flying by. I see that on my window I actually have a mayfly that is just sitting on the window, so I know it's May. Grateful for that little mayfly. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, cool. Luke.
Today I'm really grateful that I live by the seaside. I live in a wonderful town called Hastings in England, and me and my children have been playing in the sea all morning and last night as well. The weather's great, and I just feel so lucky to live by the sea, especially during this.
Oh, Landere.
I also live by the sea on the coast of Maine, and right now all of the alewives are coming from the sea and swimming home to the lakes and ponds to spawn, and there have been thousands and thousands in the stream. You can literally pick them up with your bare hand, and that happening on the coast is such an amazing thing, and I'm so grateful that the alewives are able to swim home now, and some of the dams have been removed.
Cool. Oh, nice one. Danny.
Nice. I'm grateful for the sunny day today and everything that brings with it. I was out in the garden earlier, and there are just so many flowers out. There's just a whole patchwork of colours, and I was sat just admiring them all, and there was one little pink herb robert that was just kind of craning its neck up as if to say, hey, look at me, good morning, here I am. Yeah. And just had a little moment just to appreciate every little dot in it and each petal, and yeah, I was grateful of it reaching out for me.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. It'd be nice to hear from you guys who are listening around the world. So if you've got any sort of gratitudes you want to share in the comments as well, that would be awesome. So, whilst we're here together, just as a way of bringing our minds together and our breaths together, because that's one of the things that we all share. I love to have 3 nice, long, deep breaths, and as we breathe in, just feel that air going inside you and coming back out again. And this time, as we breathe in, so imagine you're sort of breathing energy from the ground and back out again. And then this time, as you breathe in, imagine you're sort of breathing to the furthest star, bringing in that energy. And then breathing it back out again to share with all of us who share this wonderful earth together. Here we are, our minds as one. Who's going first?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. So I'm going to go first this week because I left us with a cliffhanger last week where I was going to tell a story, and then I said, no, I'm going to wait till the next week. So I'm going to do it first and share with you this story that I've been holding for 2 weeks now.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Great. All right. I will just make myself the main screen. Get going. All right, everybody. So it's been a little while since I've told a story because we've had some amazing guest storytellers, and I wanted to give others a chance to be able to share stories. So I'm feeling a little rusty. No, I'm really excited to share this story this week. And if you've been following along with these live streams, I've been coming each week with a story that I'd written, inspired by being outside and, seeing the birds or the plants or the trees or some sort of weather event, the changing seasons, and been inspired by, what the land is saying about that and writing a story inspired by that. But this week, I wanted to do something a little different because we've talked about how stories can be, imaginative and magical and all those things, but they can also be personal. You can also share stories that are things that happened. And Chris gave a wonderful example of that, I think, was it last week or the week before, of sharing a personal story. And sometimes for people that can feel easier because you're just having to remember what happened in your life instead of, details that come from imagination. So this week, I'm going to share a personal story that is true, and it's based in when I lived for 4 years in California. So for those who maybe don't know my story, I've lived in all sorts of different places. I lived in Hawaii for a little bit, and then I left Hawaii and lived in California when I went to college. And during my summers, I spent time in a national park in a really, really special place where I worked for a lodge that hosted summer camps during the summer. And it was an incredible location in the Sierra Nevada mountains, in a very remote location. It was an hour-and-a-half drive up windy mountain roads without any railing. So just, sheer cliffs that dropped off the edge into the forests of these amazing, with sequoia trees as well, which are some of the biggest trees in the world. They're just enormous and thousands of years old. So it was an incredible place to work and very, isolated, but we also had a really wonderful community of people there. So you could sort of disappear into the mountains and the forest for 3 to 6 months would be the length of time that I'd work there each summer. And we didn't have cell connection. So we didn't have access to our mobile phones or anything like that. There was internet, but it was really, really sketchy. So you might check your email like once a week. So it was very disconnected, and made incredible friends while I was there. So loved being there. And because I worked there every summer, I became really familiar with the place. It felt like home every time I'd come back. I knew the area really well. And at night in particular, it would get so dark because there was no light pollution. There were no cities around or anything like that. And you could just see, everything would be covered in the starlight or the moonlight. And so I often would walk around at night in the forest and around the lodge area without using a flashlight or a torch or anything like that. Because I felt so comfortable there and didn't really need it because there was enough light to be able to see where I was going, and I knew my way around. I knew the paths and the trails and all of that. So I rarely would bring a flashlight with me when it was nighttime. And there was one evening where sometimes we would go, so the camp was sort of based at the top of a hill, and there was a beautiful lake that was next to it. And there were some horse stables because they did offer horseback riding as some of the activities that you could do at the camp. And down that hill, there was also, more forested area, and there was a place where we would sometimes have a campfire. So at the end of the day, when we were done with work, sometimes we'd go and hang out down the horse hill, we called it, at this place where there was a campfire, and just, hang out for the evening and catch up with friends, tell stories. And there was one evening where we had been hanging out, and it was getting a little late, and I was ready to leave and go back to our cabins to sleep for the night. And so a friend and I left the gathering a little bit early, and again, didn't have a flashlight or a torch, and we're just walking through the trails, made our way past where the horse stables were. There was an arena area, and the horses were settled in for the evening. And we started to make our way up this hill to get to the top where the main lodge was. And as we were walking, I just saw a shadow, and there wasn't enough light that night to see things in detail. You could just sort of see the trail, you could see where the rocks were, and you could see shadows. And I just saw this shadow of something crouched down near the top of the hill. And there were deer everywhere in this forest, and they were not afraid of humans. They would always come into the camp. You had to do a lot to scare them away. I think they liked being there because it was probably safer than out and about in the forest, because they knew they wouldn't get come to harm when there were people around. And so I just sort of assumed it must be a deer. I see the shadow at the top. It's probably a deer. It's definitely a deer. It's fine. I know this place so well. I'm super comfortable here. No problem. So we start walking up the hill, and my friend and I are just sort of chatting with each other. And I start to feel myself getting a little bit nervous, which I didn't feel very often. Like I said, I was so comfortable there at night that, I felt fine. But because the shadow was just hanging out at the top, I just started to get that like prickly feeling, your hairs start to stick up and you're like, something's a little off. And so as we kept going up the hill, the shadow darted down the hill past us, straight past us, running so fast, just zoomed straight down. And I saw it. My friend didn't. So they thought I was making it up. And so I turned to them and said, "Did you see that?" And they said, "See what?" I said, "Did you see the shadow at the top of the hill? It just came and it just ran straight past us. Did you see that?" And they were like, "No, I didn't see anything." And we didn't really hear it. It didn't make a lot of noise either. It was so quiet. And so then I started to think, okay, did I make it up? Maybe I'm just seeing things. I don't know. So I start looking around, trying to look at the area where I thought the shadow had gone. And I'm looking through the darkness, and I see this crouching shadow down towards the bottom of the hill now. And I'm positive I'm not making it up. And I'm positive that it's something that's moved. It's not just like a shadow that was at the top and then now there's another shadow at the bottom. Like, it's definitely something that's moved. And there was somebody that worked at this lodge that had a dog. And I thought, which they wouldn't usually let off at night on its own. It would always be on a leash if it was outside. But I thought maybe it had come out and maybe it was the dog running around. And so I can feel my heart starting to race, wondering, what is this? But trying to reassure myself, being like, no, it's just a deer. It's just a dog. It's just a deer. It's just a dog. As I'm, continuing to walk up the hill. And so it's now behind us as we're walking up the hill. And my friend still thinks I'm, nuts and is making this up. But I keep looking over my shoulder as we're walking because I want to keep an eye on what this thing is. And I start to notice that every time I look over my shoulder, it's down crouched. And then as we start to walk, it's creeping up behind us. And so then I would stop and look and, stare at it. And then it would stop and crouch. And then we would begin to move and it would begin to move. And so my heart started to race. And I said to my friend, "There's something there. I know there's something there. And I don't think it's a deer and it's not a dog because it didn't have the spindly legs like a deer. But it was bigger. It was bigger than the dog." So again, I'm keeping an eye on it. And all of a sudden, my body just took over. The fear overcame me. And I started to just run. I just felt like I had to run. Which if there's something in the forest that's trying to get you, that's not the thing you should do necessarily. And my friend who hadn't seen it, who wasn't feeling as scared as me, just grabbed my arm, stopped me from moving and said, "Don't run." And then started to believe me that something was wrong because I think they saw how scared I was. So we made our way up the hill, just walking and then looking behind us, this thing would stop. Walking, looking behind us, the thing would stop until eventually we got to where there was an outdoor light that was flooding the area with light. And it was where the lodge was. And as soon as we got to the place where there was light, we ran into the lodge. And because there was no cell service or any way to reach the people who were still down at this, campfire, we had radios, like walkie-talkies. And so we ended up radioing the group and saying, "We just saw something. We don't know what it is. But just letting you know that there's something there, please be safe." And so the rest of the group ended up staying together as a big group. And then they made their way back up and nobody saw anything that night. The rest of the night I couldn't sleep. Like, my body was full of adrenaline, and it was such an incredible experience to have that as you sort of come down off of the fight or flight response. And just the shaking and the heart racing for hours after that until eventually I calmed down enough to be able to sleep. And then the following morning, there were a group of people that went down to investigate, and they found the footprints of what was there the night before. And I know there's a delay, but I'm wondering if before I say it, if people have any guesses of what it might have been. So it was a mountain lion. Yeah, or a cougar. And they could tell by the footprints. It seemed like it was a young one that maybe was just curious because there were horses down there. The mountain lions would be interested in that. And it obviously didn't attack us. And some things that people, like the legends around there, said, if you see a mountain lion, you're basically getting attacked by a mountain lion. So the fact that it didn't get us and that we saw it meant it was a young one that was more curious. But that was, quite a memorable experience that I had in the mountains of California. All right, I'll bring everybody back into the stream.
Woo! Ooh, I was sort of getting scared just hearing you talking about that.
I think we lost Luke somewhere along the way.
Oh no!
But
Oh no!
Hopefully he'll rejoin us. But in the meantime, we can just have a little discussion about that story. What did you think?
The cougars got him. Oh no. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought it was going to be a spook in the forest or some kind of spirit that just shooting around everywhere. Scary.
Yeah. Well, I was really nervous whilst I was listening to that, and I felt quite anxious, and my heart rate was going up as well. So, what's happening? Great.
Yeah, I thought you did a really good job of bringing us into the moment with you. And this is also a story that I have heard a couple times now, since Caylin and I have done programs together in the past. And I love how they're slightly different every time. Like the whole experience is still there, but some of the details are a little bit different, maybe things you've remembered and added in a second time. And I love how fluid and adaptable stories are that way, depending on who you're telling them to.
Yeah.
Cool. I see some comments here from people that you, is it Lana or Ilana thought cougar, so Ilana had it, and then Alice, who lives in California. I was curious, Alice, what you'd think of this, that the juveniles practice stalking, and yes, an older one would not have let you hear it. So, yeah. And then people talking about, Jude says, I was actually pleased it was just a mountain lion. What were you thinking it was, Jude?
The Gruffalo.
Okay, then I've got a question for you, because that initial fight or flight kind of response is totally uncontrollable, isn't it? But I'm just thinking about other encounters that I've had with wildlife, and sometimes feeling fearful to begin with, but then having a chance to sit with that and then getting different, whether it's gratitude or... Did you have a place for gratitude in that, or was it just so terrifying that it was just, thank goodness I wasn't eaten in the woods?
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely gratitude. And I think what it did for me, which still reflects into my life today, is it humbled me and made me remember that this was not my forest. You know, it felt like home to me, and I definitely had a sense of belonging, but I was taking the space, sharing the space with the wildlife that truly belongs there, and is one of the only places they can live, because they do need mountain lions in particular need vast amounts of territory. So I think for me it was a gratitude and also just a humbling of remembering my place in a wide ecosystem, as opposed to on top doing what I can or what I want. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we're like living in the UK, we don't have to worry about other predators. But I know from when I lived in the US, just my feeling as I was walking or running, hiking through the forest is totally, there's just something very, very different than, so I don't know if it's anticipation or not. I'm not sure what the word is, but there is a different feeling to being in the forest there when there are predators around than when we just wander the UK, the top of the food chain, nobody can come near us. And I think it is it's an instinctive thing that's what I felt anyway, and I've tried to put my finger on it, but I just can't really explain it other than I feel something different there than when I just walk or be with the forest here.
I think it dulls down our awareness as well by not having big predators in this country. And one of the things that we joke about sometimes on camp is that the problem with teenagers these days, that they can just go and hang around and they're really kind of relaxed and think they own the place because there aren't any big predators around. But to keep them on edge, I don't know. It might be different in the States because there's big predators over there for sure.
It makes me think about a lot of the older folk tales from the European region were kind of about spooky forests and stay out of the woods because a wolf will eat you, etc., etc. But then all those predators were like wiped out because people feared them so much, and now there isn't really that fear, and those folk tales don't really. For me, they make a lot of sense because there is wolves and bears and mountain lions just to the north or to the west of us, north and west and south. So Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I don't think it's
comment on.
Coincidence that a lot of the predators in our old folk tales are actually extinct in the UK, and I think there's definitely a link to that. Definitely, as children, we are brought up to fear them rather than respect them. So, absolutely.
I think part of what I felt compelled to tell this story, and I didn't really know exactly why, but and I'm still reflecting on that, and maybe you have input, but the feeling of fear, just because I think that's come up for a lot of people recently too, and the ways that our bodies interact with that feeling. And I think that's something that was just a thought of sharing through a story of, how our bodies interact with fear and how that impacts us, and how it impacts us physically, mentally, emotionally, and what are ways that we can process, because sometimes fear is uncontrollable. Something happens that's scary, but how can we process it moving forward? So there's just like questions in my head that I thought come to me through this story.
Can I add a little something? So I had a little experience this week where I walked up to the woods early in the morning, and I was lay in the forest and just kind of taking some deep breaths and doing a little bit of meditation, and a tree branch fell behind me, and without it even registering or thinking about it, I was up on 2 feet, turned kind of facing something with both of my fists up, and I kind of giggled to myself because it was like, oh, how did I get here? And without even thinking about it, there is a certain inbuilt fear, because I'm really comfortable in the woods, and I would like to think that a cracking branch would be something that would get my curiosity, but something somewhere within me had me up and spun and ready to fight within about 2 seconds. And I thought, I actually gave myself a pat on the back. I was like, yeah, you can still get up quick. So, but yeah, in terms of fear, I think there are different levels of fear, aren't there? We have this conscious fear of telling stories and other things, but there's also a real unconscious fear, which our body will just respond without us even knowing. So,
Yeah, instinct for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for that. I don't know, Luke, I know that you disappeared for a little bit, so I just wanted to give you the chance
I'm really
to put any comments.
I was enjoying the story, and then my internet cut out, and I had to run and sort it out. So I actually missed the end. So I'm kind of getting the idea from listening to people, but I'm looking forward to listening back to it. So sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah.
Luke,
Yeah.
It's really interesting, Luke. If you don't listen back to it, but you write the end of the story, ending. See what
I'll have a go.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, are we ready to move on to the next story then? Our next storyteller? Cool. So Teague is going to be next, and I'm looking forward to this. Follow up, Teague. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I am also telling a story around the theme of fear, as a couple of spirit guides have come to visit me in my dreams lately. And I'm just going to play my flute a little bit to welcome those spirits back into my environment here, to get me primed to tell a little bit more about the dreams I've had. I welcome in the spirit of the mountain lion. I welcome in the spirit of the cougar, the puma. I welcome in the spirit of the orca, also known as the killer whale. Recently, I've had these very vivid dreams of both of these animals, the cougar and the orca. And only within reflection of these dreams have I started to uncover and unravel what they mean to me. First, I'll start with the dream of the orca. After watching a movie called Blackfish, which I do recommend to anyone out there interested in learning more about orcas in captivity, I was stunned by their intelligence, learning so much about how they live in these family groups. They have different languages between pods that live in different parts of the world, and how the practice of putting them into captivity, at least the older practices of taking them into captivity, involve taking small baby orcas away from their families and bringing them into these small aquarium type atmosphere. Not small in the sense of like goldfish small, but small for an orca because they have large territories. And ever since I watched that documentary, I realized I'm afraid of the orca. I'm afraid of their ferocity. I'm afraid of their intelligence, intelligence that rivals our own as humans. And I thought, if I'm ever in the ocean and I show that fear, the orcas will not hesitate to take advantage of it. And when I looked back on reflecting upon some of these dreams I was having where the orcas were following me while I was in the water. I was in a boat, luckily, in the dreams, but I could see the crest of their dorsal fins, and I could see that they were following me, and it gave me fear. And I knew that I needed to reflect on what these dreams meant. So I started to research what the orca means when it comes to visit you in a dream, and I found that it means that it's time to embrace your inner go-getter, embrace your tenacity, to take a leap of faith and do something that just feels right, rather than overthink it. And I've been historically known for overthinking things, so I thought, this is a valuable lesson from the orca. Another aspect of the dream is overcoming fear. And I thought, next time I have a dream like this, and I know it's a dream, which I've had before, a lucid dream, where I can understand that I am dreaming, I would like to throw myself off the boat. A very scary sort of thing to be in the water with orcas who are predators. But I want to throw myself off the boat in a calm manner and understand that even if I am eaten, even if this happens in the dream, I am not giving into fear. I am just letting what has to be, letting what comes come. And I've actually done that in the past with a dream that I used to have about wolves that scared me in the past when I was a young child. And in the dream, when I let go of that fear, rather than being eaten by the wolves, I actually became a wolf. I became part of the pack. And wolves have followed me throughout my life as a spirit animal and kind of a central totem to my life. And the second dream I had relating to fear is the dream of the cougar, the mountain lion, the puma. Within the same week, I would say, I had this other dream, and within the dream, I was foraging some mushrooms actually on Vancouver Island. I had just gotten back from a trip from Vancouver Island, and the year prior, and I had been reflecting on mountain lions and my experience with them there, because Vancouver Island, actually off the west coast of British Columbia here in Canada, has the highest concentration of cougars in all of North America. Around 600 to 800 cougars on this small island in Canada. So after, in the dream, I should go back to that, is I'm foraging these mushrooms in the dream, and I had a companion with me on the other side of a stream, and I heard a noise, and I looked up to see if it was my companion, but no, it wasn't, but it was a shape that was moving, and it turned and it opened its eyes wide to me. And those eyes were the eyes of the mountain lion, the cougar. And that was when the dream ended. So I did the same thing I did with the orca dream, is I reflected on this dream and I thought, why is the cougar visiting me? I know I have feared the cougar. I know I have been afraid of it because of its ferocity. Same kind of thing as this orca. It's ferocity, but also something a little different about it is its stealth, its stealthiness, and its unfear really of humans. It's not fearful of humans in the way that maybe a bear might be. They will stalk humans, as you heard in Caylin's story. So I thought, okay, so I'm afraid of both of these animals. What does the cougar have to tell me? And the cougar showed me a few things by visiting me. It showed me that I need to be a leader. I need to put my best foot forward. I need to stand on the top of my mountain and just roar like a mountain lion. Though I haven't ever heard a mountain lion roar, I have heard the sound recorded before because I wanted to hear what they sound like, and they sound very interesting. It's not like a lion's roar, and I'd like to look it up again so I could actually replicate it in this story when I tell it in the future. But it's more of a kind of a chirping meow sound. It's a little unnerving. And the cougar also showed me that other than just being a leader and stepping forward, being on my own mountain, that it has always been with me, kind of like the wolf. It reminded me of some things that had happened in my life. The time, actually 5 years ago, when I had visited Vancouver Island, when I had thought I had seen or heard a cougar. I was wrapped up in a little hammock outside on a farm just outside of Parksville in Vancouver Island. And I heard all these frogs croaking in the pond nearby. And all of a sudden the frogs went quiet. And I thought, oh, that's weird. And then I heard this weird sound. And I thought, that's a really weird sound. And I immediately thought, oh, mountain lion, cougar, it's got to be something like that. So I started getting into this fear, this adrenaline started rising in me. And luckily for me at the time, there was cell phone service. I called my friend who was in the house and said, I think there's a mountain lion out here. Please come out. Please come out. Bring a flashlight or something to scare it away. I'm in a hammock. I'm like a little sausage for this cougar to eat. So they came out and both of us got out with his flashlight. And what we saw was a very frightening sight for me at the time. 2 glowing eyes at the back of the pond. Though the glowing eyes looked a little too small to be a cougar, but they were still reflecting that light back to us. And then we heard meow. It was a farm cat. Though I still think to this day, what was that sound in the background, that weird sound? Was that a cougar or some sort of cow or something out in the distance? And ever since that day, I've known that the cougar has been following me. I've always been aware whenever I go out into the woods here in Calgary in the Rocky Mountains that there could be cougars and mountain lions. But it's only been recently that I've really reflected and realized that these creatures have a lesson for us, have a lesson for me. And that's the end of my story about cougars and orcas. Thanks for hearing.
Thanks, Teague. I love that you talked about your dreams, thinking about like stories can come to us in dreams too. Our dreams are stories. I just love how that's not something that we've talked about, I don't think, until now. So
yeah, I used to, like I mentioned in the story, I used to have these really vivid, lucid dreams where I was actually getting eaten by wolves, which is a little intense as a child. And what helped me overcome them was just surrendering into the wolf pack. And then they didn't see me as prey anymore. They saw me as one of them for some reason, and I became one of the wolves. So that was a really cool story that kind of was started in my life and continued throughout my whole life, about these wolves coming to me in dreams and coming to me through waking dreams and storytelling, etc. So I think there's a lot of exploration to be done in the dreamscape, for sure, for stories and lessons.
Yes.
I also like that idea, Teague, that you just brought up of stories unfolding over time, like maybe starting in your childhood and then gathering momentum and more experiences and ideas as your life goes on. But yeah, it's a story that's created over time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I haven't written one down yet, but I could probably tell a story about myself as the wolf boy moving through my life and how I perceive myself now related to the wolf, but that will be for another time potentially.
Yeah.
Oh, Teague, do you know Michelle Paver's books, Wolf Brother and the Chronicles of Darkness?
No.
You should check them out. I think.
Okay.
I think you'd enjoy it. There's a series. I don't know if anybody else has heard of them, but they're really, really they're really fun books. But they're also really well researched. So she talks a lot about plants and medicines and things like that. But the main character in it, he was left with wolves as a child, and that's all I say.
Yeah. Okay.
Check it out. But yeah, I got hooked on that series for a while.
Me
I
too.
should mention really quickly, just as it can just lightning bolt into my head, where that original fear for wolves came was, since I kind of explained where my fear from cougars came, which was the Vancouver Island, and then my fear from orcas came from the movie Blackfish. My fear of wolves came from the story I was told when I was really young, the Peter and the Wolf, if you've ever heard that one. It's a famous story where they have like the orchestra in the back. It's like each character has a different orchestral instrument. It's really amazing. But the wolf has, I believe it's the French horn, and it had just this really ominous sound that I was like, oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Scary.
You were saying something, Chris?
No, I didn't have a sort of a full sentence or anything. I was just going, yes, scary. I was thinking about the music and the way I love doing different instruments for different characters in stories. And that I can remember that story too. That was something that was told. My mum put on for me to listen to many times as a kid, so I remember it well. Yeah.
I really love that you were telling stories about the animals that visit you in your dreams and stuff, because I've been exploring that a lot of my journey and recently. And just last week, a bit in your story reminded me, because a cat came to me in my dreams. And I remember really trying to change it in my mind, because I wanted it to be a big, like, fierce cat, a jaguar or a panther, something like that. But it was just a domestic cat. And when you said it was just a farm cat that you saw there in the woods, just reminded me of that. 'Cause, yeah, it's really interesting, these animals that come to us, and looking at the reasons why they might be coming to us. That was really interesting. Thank you.
We've got a couple of comments in of Emma saying it's interesting to reflect on how stories from childhood affect the way we perceive wildlife our whole lives. I think that's a really valuable comment of the stories we tell. You know, like I just told my cougar story or mountain lion story. If I tell that to a group of kids, are they going to be afraid of mountain lions now for the rest of their lives? So just thinking about the impact that our stories can have and the ways we might want to adjust or, you know, tell them in a certain way. Yeah, well, that's great. Well, I'm curious if we're ready to move on to the next story with our guest storyteller, Luke.
Yeah.
Good to everybody? Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll hand over the floor to you then, Luke. Excited for your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah. Joy.
Hi, everybody. It's really nice to be a part of this today. I feel quite honoured to join this storytelling live stream. I was unsure what story to tell. I have wrote some stories, but I thought I'd tell a story that really affected me many years ago. It was the first story I can remember that when I was sitting around a campfire that it really affected me and stayed with me for a long time. It was told to me by my mentor, Rob Fallon. and it's something we use many times when working with teenagers, especially on the rites of passage type work, because it's a story that can bring up a lot of questions. And I love stories that can really bring out some kind of big ideas and big questions, but they can still be in really entertaining stories, because the work I've done with teenagers over the years, it's quite difficult to talk about difficult problems and things, but stories have a wonderful way of having a therapeutic power and bring up some quite big discussions. But anyway, so this story is called The Woodcutter and the Demon. I hope you enjoy it. Long ago, there lived a woodcutter. He lived deep in the woods. There's a huge woods, and he worked every day, chopping trees, coppicing trees. He lived alone in his little wood hut, and he did this for years, but it was really hard work, back-breaking work. This was long before the times when they had chainsaws and mass woodland management strategies. It was just one man and his axe every day, working hard, working away. And the woodchopper was getting quite fed up, quite bored. He wanted more time. He didn't want to work so hard. So he was desperate to get some help or to not have to work anymore. He wanted an easier life. Nobody would come and work with him. But he did know that deep down in the woods there was a wizard. And every time he tried to go near to the wizard to get some help, the wizard would disappear and ignore him. So he came up with a plan to trap the wizard. And he set up a trap. And sure enough, within a few nights, the wizard got caught in the big net. The woodchopper ran down to see, and the wizard was furious. "Let me out! Let me out!" The woodchopper said, "I'm really sorry. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to upset you. I just really, really need a wish. I don't want to work so hard. I don't want to do so much. Please help me." The wizard was upset, but decided to give him one wish if he let him down. So the woodchopper did let him down. And then he disappeared. The woodchopper was confused. "Oh no, he hasn't helped me. He's just disappeared." But just as he was about to walk off, he felt a little tugging on the back of his trousers. And he looked down. And there was a tiny little red creature. It looked like a demon. It had pointy ears and horns and red skin. And he looked down at the demon, and it called again. Master, what can I do?" "Wow, this must be what the wizard's left him." He said again, Master, what can I do? What can I do?" He said, "Wow, okay, let's get started." So he said, "Well, I'm working on this tree over here today. Could you chop that tree down for me and get it ready, get it all chopped up, ready to be sold? That'd be wonderful." Off the demon went, and he was back within seconds. Master, what can I do?" The woodchopper looked over, and the tray was down. It was perfect. "Wow, you're so fast. This is amazing. I'm never going to have to work again." So he gave him a bigger task. He said, "Well, okay, this week I was going to work on this whole row of trees. If you could bring them down, get them all logged up and ready for sale, that'd be amazing. That'll take you ages. Thank you. Off you go." And the woodchopper turned off, thought he could walk back to his cabin and get a nice cup of tea. But in no time at all, the demon was there again. Master, what can I do? What can I do?" And he looked over. Sure enough, all of the trees he asked him to do were processed and ready. "This is incredible. Well, I'm going to have to give you a much bigger job," thought the woodchopper. So he said, "Well, this month I was going to work on that whole section of woods. It's going to take me weeks, maybe even months. Surely that would keep you busy. Chop all the trees down, process them, and make sure we get them ready. That'd be fantastic. Surely that's going to take you a while." He sent him off. The demon ran off to do his job. The woodchopper walked back to his cabin, put the kettle on. Within minutes, Master, what can I do? What can I do?" He looked out. The whole area of woodland he'd asked him to do was clear, and the wood was ready to go. "Wow, okay, you're going to need a big job. Do you know what? Make me a new log cabin. I need a new log cabin." "No, wait a minute. You're too fast. Make me a mansion. Make me a wooden mansion in the woods. That'd be amazing. Make it huge and beautiful. 2 floors, no, 3 floors. Give me the most beautiful woodland house of all the woods you can find. That'd be amazing. Do you know what? You're so fast. Can you go down to the river and can you build me a big wooden harbour? And can you build me a wooden boat to go in it? That'd be incredible. This is going to take you weeks. He sent the demon off and he ran off to do the work. The woodchopper went back and he was able to sit down on his chair. But within minutes, Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? Master, what can I do? He looks out. He went out to the woods and sure enough, there was this beautiful, beautiful big wooden mansion. And he looked down to the river and there was a wonderful harbour and a beautiful big boat. Everything was done. It was immaculate. The woodchopper said to the demon, I don't need you to do anything. I won't need to work again all year. You can just rest, just go for a walk, do whatever you want to do. That's fine, thank you. The demon stayed though. Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? I said, no, just leave me alone, you can go. Master, what can I do? What can I do? The demon would not be quiet. He tried to kick him away, he tried to walk away from him, but he was still there. Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? So leave me alone. He started to walk away into the woods to get away from the demon, but the demon just followed him. Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? So just leave me alone. He started running to get away from him, running through the woods, hiding behind trees, but the demon was always there. Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? The woodchopper was getting kind of upset and annoyed, so he ran faster. Just leave me alone. He started running through the woods. But behind him, the voice came, and the voice changed. Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? He looked behind him, and the demon had got bigger. It was almost as big as him now. He was becoming a bit intimidating. So he ran faster and faster away from the demon. Every time he looked back, the demon was getting bigger and taller and stronger. Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? The woodchopper was getting very scared now. He didn't know what to do. He ran as quick as he could. He tried to hide everywhere. He couldn't get away. Leave me alone, please. I don't need any more help. Please, leave me alone. The demon got bigger. Master, Master, what can I do? What can I do? The woodchopper was running as fast as he could. He just couldn't get away from him. He was getting really scared now as this demon got as big as the trees. It was stomping through the forest, knocking trees down. Master! Master! What can I do? In the distance, the woodchopper could see a huge oak tree. He ran towards it as quick as he could, and he saw, sitting below the oak tree, was a shaman. The shaman was in beautiful robes and had thick, long, curly black hair and tight curls. He ran up to the shaman and said, oh, I'm so pleased to see you. Please, 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 can you help me? My demon's got so big, I don't know what to do about it. You could hear it behind. Master, what can I do? What can I do? The shaman was very calm. He said, calm down, it's okay. And he took from his lovely big, long, black, curly hair, he plucked a hair out, and it was thick and curly like wire. And he gave it to the woodchopper. The woodchopper said it. He was quite confused. And the shaman said, if you need to control your demon, ask him to straighten the hair. What? Said the woodchopper. That's ridiculous. But the demon was there. Master, what can I do? So he gave him the hair. Could you straighten the hair, please? He gave him the hair. And the demon took it and straightened it. And he let go. Bing! The hair curled back up into tight curls. He did it again. Bing! Bing! Every time he let go, it would just go curly again. He kept doing it. Bing! And as time went on, he kept doing it and getting smaller. Shing! Bing! 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 Until eventually the demon was small again. It was a tiny, cute demon once more. Bing! Bing! The woodchopper learned to live with his demon happily in the woods for many years to come. And that's the end of my story, the woodchopper and the demon. Thank you.
Wow, Luke, that was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Nice job.
good one.
Thank you.
So many questions.
Yeah,
It raises so many questions about our inner demons and taming them and ambition. So many
That's
questions.
what I really like about that story, because when I've told it in groups of teenagers when we're on camps, it's the one story that gets them talking for days afterwards, sometimes asking questions and look, because there's so many different levels to it. But that's why I really enjoy that story.
yeah. Really good, really enthusiastically told too. It's really nice to see your way of telling it. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
loved
lots
all
of-
the voices and sound effects. Nice job.
Thank you.
That's what, yeah, the comments are coming in saying that they love the sound effects, all the repetition and the voices. Yeah, you've got a knack for characters.
Yeah, definitely.
And Joe, sorry, Joe had a comment here, because there's people saying as well, there's so much that can come from, like, discussion that can come from this. Lots of themes to be explored in this story. And Joe has said the lazier we are, the more our demons come after us. That's one interpretation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that almost the thought pattern I was having kind of relates to what Joe was saying. The idea that when we become listless, our mind starts kind of wheeling all these stories about how we're not good enough, etc., etc., etc. So you need to keep busy almost to keep those at bay. Like, but a way you can tame your demon or just to embrace those thoughts is through like mindfulness practices and to just live with your demon essentially, rather than always be busy to fight off the thoughts of the scary thoughts sort of thing.
Yeah,
Exactly. Absolutely.
yeah. I know. I'm one of those people that keeps going, doesn't stop. Sometimes, and even with meditation or whatever it is, I often need to be doing something that is kind of brings me into a flow, rather than just finding complete stillness. So I think I must have a few demons in there. Yeah.
Like us all, Chris. We all have some.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
I imagine that'd be really great around the campfire at night as well, just because there was such great visions in there of the demon getting bigger and bigger, and you played the part so well. I just imagined like a big fire there and just being really captivated. So,
Oh yeah.
where is that story originate from? Do we know?
I don't know for sure. I've actually done a bit of research and I can't find it. My mentor told me it about 5 years ago, but I haven't been able to get hold of him to find out where he got it from.
I can tell you where he got it from. But I can't tell you where he got it from. So, Rob used to train with a guy called Tom Shawcon, who runs a school. Used to run a school called Trackways, and Tom said that it was an old sort of an old Jewish genie story, and he told that fire with a genie in a bottle popping out, and in a very, very similar way. But it's possible that story, he might have heard that story from Tom Brown Jr. in the States at the Tracker School. So maybe it's come threading it through that way. I don't know.
That would make sense. Yeah, definitely. Tom Brown Jr. was a lot of the training was based on that. So yeah.
That's great. I love your.
Chris, I love that you knew all that. You were just able to pull all that together.
Yeah. Chris, all knowledgeable about stories, story sources. Chris, where does this story come from?
You just happened to pick up from one that I know. That's all.
That's really cool. All right, well, I'm conscious that we're reaching an hour. I know that with more storytellers, we always say, we're going to tell a short story, and then we get absorbed in our stories and take a little bit more time. But Landere has come with another story, so I would like to give some more time for Landere to share her story. And then we do have something like a special way we'd like to end today's live stream too. So for those of you who can stick around to the end, it'd be great to have you with us because we do want to celebrate the 8 weeks that we've been doing this together, and the community that's joined us. You know, those who've been here from the start and who've come along week to week, who keep coming back, and our new storytellers that have joined us too. So if you can stick around to the end, it would be great to have you there. But I'd love to hand over to Landere now if you're ready.
Sure.
Okay, great.
So the story that I'm going to tell today is one that has kind of come together through some thoughts that I've been having about the time that we're in right now with COVID-19. And it's kind of a story that I made up to comfort myself, I guess, in a way. And it's also come about through thinking about my grandmother and my great-grandmother and my great-great-grandmother, and maybe the events that happened in their eras, such as the Great Depression or the World Wars or the Spanish flu, and the things that they had to get through and weather, the hardships that they had. And just thinking about how maybe the strength and resilience that they built up during those times has been passed down through a family line, and how to kind of tap into that strength. So there came a time when the land was filled with disease and famine. People stayed home. The streets in town were much more empty than usual. Mothers, fathers, siblings, and grandparents spent time together cooking and telling stories and taking care of each other. They built bigger gardens in their yards to feed each other and their neighbors. There was one girl who lived at the edge of the forest in a cottage with her mother and her sisters. Her name was Faye. And she was like any other 12-year-old girl at the time. She would help with the chores and help make breakfast and then sit down to do some schoolwork at her kitchen table. And she would spend time out in her yard, waving to her friends over the hedgerow, keeping a social distance. One night, she fell asleep, and a voice came to her in her dreams. And this voice said, "When you wake up in the morning, put your hand under your pillow, and you will find a pouch. It's a magical pouch. Put it around your neck, and it will take you on a very important journey." When Faye woke up the next day, she slipped her hand under her pillow, and sure enough, there was the pouch. She took it out and hesitated. She didn't put it on just yet, but she slipped it in her pocket and went downstairs to help make breakfast. After the dishes were washed up, she ran outside into her backyard and to the edge of the forest where there was a mossy stone wall. She sat down and slowly took the pouch out of her pocket and slipped it around her neck. Nothing very dramatic happened. Faye stood there for a moment, wondering if something would. But she suddenly felt an urge to go and explore the forest. So she stepped over the stone wall and started walking over the soft pine needles. Spring had just arrived and the earth was waking up. She stopped to look at the trillium that was emerging amidst its throne of green leaves, and she stopped to listen to the hermit thrush that was singing like a silver flute in the trees. She walked deeper and deeper into the forest, further than she had ever gone before, until she came to a dark corner full of tall old hemlock trees. And out of the corner of her eye, she saw something white on the other side of the hemlock tree. She walked over to take a closer look, and there was a bush. It was covered in big white blossoms. And as Faye looked closer, it looked like an old woman, bent over, hobbling through the forest, her arms outstretched, dark and wrinkled, with what looked like blossom bracelets all down her arms. Faye got closer and closer, and she saw that the blossoms were big and had big petals on the outside and small petals on the inside. And as she was looking, it began to speak to her in the voice of an old woman. My name is Grandmother Hobblebush, and I am your mother's mother. Take a petal from my blossom bracelet and put it in your pouch to remind you that even during the darkest times, you will find beauty in unexpected places. Faye gently took a petal from her blossom bracelet, slipped it into her pouch, and thanked Grandmother Hobblebush. And then she continued walking on through the forest. She walked and she walked until she heard a bubbling, trickling noise under the leaves near her feet. She bent down and noticed that there were rocks under the leaves. She pulled them aside, and there was a freshwater spring bubbling up from deep inside the earth. She felt the water, and it was icy cold. And then she heard the voice of an old, old woman. My name is Great-Grandmother Earthwater. I am your grandmother's mother. Take a small jar that you will find in your pouch and fill it up with some of the water that comes from deep inside the earth, to remind you that even during sparse times, the earth is here to provide for you if you can hear her talking. Faye filled up her little jar and thanked Great-Grandmother Earthwater, and then she put the stones back and continued on her way. She walked and she walked until she came to the end of the forest, and there she found a lake. And there was a boat in the reeds, and across the lake, a beautiful rounded mountain rose up. Faye got in the boat and paddled across the lake and began to climb the mountain. She climbed and she climbed. And when she got to the top of the mountain, she stood there on the ancient bedrock, and it began to speak to her. I am Great-Grandmother Mountain. I am your grandmother's mother. Choose a stone from beneath your feet and put it in your pouch to remind you that the earth is here to hold you and help keep you strong. Faye did as she was told. She slipped the rock in her pouch and thanked Great-Grandmother Mountain, Great-Great-Grandmother Mountain. Then she walked back down, paddled across in her boat, hid the boat among the reeds, and started walking home for dinner. As she got near her house in the village, the sun was slanting as it set behind the trees, and it was slanting and shining and glimmering through the trees onto the forest floor. Faye stopped to warm her toes in the moss where the sunlight was hitting, and then she heard the voice of an old woman. My name is Great-Great-Great-Grandmother Light in the Forest. I am your great-great-grandmother's mother. Put your pouch into the sunlight that's falling through the trees and hold it there. It will catch the warmth of the sunlight. And when you are feeling sad or cold, hold on to the pouch, and the light of your ancestors and the light from the sun will help warm you. Faye did as she was told and felt the warmth flow into the pouch around her neck. Faye then continued home to the village with all of the gifts from her many grandmothers. She felt comforted that all of these women in her family were not only out there in the earth, but she could feel them inside of her too, in her spirit and in her DNA. And she was so grateful for everything that they had given her. Time passed, the disease and famine left the land eventually, and good times returned. But Faye always kept the pouch around her neck, and even during hard times, was never lonely again. The end. Thanks for listening.
I'm so glad that we didn't coordinate it completely, but Your story was a perfect story to finish us off for today, I think.
Oh, good.
Yeah, just really like the connections to just not just what's there now, but thinking about just thinking a little bit bigger than that, and that feeling of, you know, time passes and life continues, and we have what we need if we can see it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also that idea of, you know, journeying back through and just seeing the long ancestral lines that we have and what we've come through. And this is just a tiny little moment in our evolution, and it's going to be all right. I like that.
Yeah. What it brought up in me was you know, apart from the sort of joy of watching you tell the story and the imagery in it, was the just that sort of grief of not having grandparents around anymore, and not sort of really connecting with my own ones, because they sort of died when I was so young. But at the same time, just remembering, all of if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. You know, if it wasn't for our ancestors, we really wouldn't be here. And the gratitude for that, and all our relations going way back, all the way to the algae in the, in the first sort of primordial soup. Yeah. Thank you. Beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I brought up that connection to our ancestry and to nature, and yeah, it really made me smile and feel lovely. It was a perfect story.
Thank you.
Looks like Ilana, I believe that's how you pronounce their name, in the comments there. They share a sentiment with me that it's very suitable for our current time, and that connection you started off with of people baking or people's gardens getting bigger and cooking together and telling stories together. That's definitely because we're doing it right now. We're doing it, telling stories together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's also another way to finish us off. So maybe we can like move towards finishing for today. But part of that is because I feel like each week we've had a little pouch that we've been putting stories into together. And now, you know, we're not going to continue these weekly. We do hope, you know, as I've said, we will continue this in some form, and definitely subscribe to my newsletter or just follow on social media so you can get updated with how these continue, because I don't want to lose this momentum of an amazing community we've connected. But we all each have a pouch of stories that we can carry with us moving forward, even though, you know, we're not going to be meeting on a weekly basis now. So that's my metaphor that I'm taking from it. If like I'm holding a pouch near my heart of all these stories with all of you that we've shared over the past 2 months, which has been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that,
yeah, it leads nicely into what I was going to do as well. So let's do that, shall we?
Yeah.
We can do it like this, everyone in. It's kind of cool to see everyone. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that we often do at the end of our sessions where I work is we do something called Moss, which is a moment of special stillness or a moment of special silence. And we use a little bell, or I've got this singing ringing bowl here. And we have a little bit of a countdown, 1, 2, 3, and then all together we say Moss. We would normally shout it as loud as we can in the forest, but we don't have to do that because we'll just say it. And then we ring the bell, and then we tend to do deer ears. Everybody know deer ears, where we just cup our hands like so, and then bring them up behind. And we might want to take our headphones like this, and we just take a moment to connect with all the sounds around us. And then try and hold one sound which speaks to us. But then what we're going to do then is bring our deer ears onto our heart. And just like Caylin said then, this idea that we've been putting things into our pouch. So just then taking a moment to think about the things that we may have put into our heart from our last 8 weeks. And we'll just take a moment and then I'll ring the bell again, and then we can share, if we like, the things that we put in our hearts or the sounds that connect us even from afar. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to just take my little belt. I'm going to take my one headphone out to begin with. So we'll count. I'll count us down 1, 2, 3. Then we'll all say Moss, and then I'll ring the bell. Are we ready?
Mhm.
1, 2, 3.
Moss!
All right. Does anybody want to share? And I guess if anybody at home who did it as well wants to type in maybe something that they heard, which was a significant sound that can connect us, or something that we've put into our hearts over the last 8 weeks that we would like to share too.
I heard the sound of the wind outside of my window. And I thought, yeah, the wind is just blowing around the entirety of our planet. That definitely is a connecting element.
Yeah. And did you put something in your heart, Teague, from the session?
Yeah, I just put the sentiment of being connected through the air as my heart pocket.
Anyone else want to share?
Okay, I'll go. What the sound that I heard in the background was is actually my daughter. I think she must be having a shower. There's some loud music going on over in her part of the house. She doesn't normally live with us because she's at college in London, and over the last 8 weeks she's been at home, and it's been really nice to have her around. Sort of connect with family in that way. And each week that we've been doing this, she's been usually in the next room on her university course. So we've both been sort of sharing the internet at the same time on Wednesday afternoons. So that's my sort of personal story of connection. And that's what I put in my pocket from this, that lovely connection with you guys, and this little space to share stories and get to know each other. It's been really good. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Does anybody else want to share?
I do, but I want to go last. So I don't know if Luke or Landere, you have something.
Sorry, I'm just a little bit behind. I cut off for a minute.
Yeah. So we're just sharing the thing that we heard, or the something that we put in our heart from these sessions, from being together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I heard, I got the window open here, and the seagulls are very loud. And I love that sound, because it's very much the sound of my home here in Hastings. And in my heart, I just felt a real gratitude for being a part of this, being an honour for me to be a part of it, and just feel real gratitude for the whole process.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke.
I heard actually just my water filter in the room next door. So kind of a silly sound, I guess, but I also feel very grateful for being a part of this little community online here and getting to know all of you a little bit and being able to share some thoughts and stories that have been in my brain and might not have gotten out otherwise. So yeah, it's been really nice.
Awesome. Thank you. I've got the window here open too, and I expected to hear birds, but then as soon as I cut my ears, I could just hear children playing and laughing, which I felt quite significant and was a nice sound to hear. And I think that what I put in my heart really is that I sometimes find storytelling to be quite a solitary thing, and you find yourself stood there in front of big groups, and it's just been really lovely for us to kind of have the majority in a way where we're all together. And I know there's a lot of people there, and I wish we could see all of their faces as well, but it's kind of felt like we've done this as a community of storytellers to deliver our work or our love to other people. So I'm really grateful to be part of that. So thank you all. Thank you, Caylin, for setting it up.
Yeah, thank you. And just to put out what other people are writing in the comments, Ilana, feeling a bit emotional. It's been so lovely to be a part of this, a journey of stories with like-minded people, hoping to connect with you all at some point in some way. Definitely hope that too. Thank you for joining us. And Alice, put all of you and your stories in my heart to share with other friends. Yes, please share these stories. Please, adapt and share through your eyes and ears and heart. And then Mary, who says, "It's been amazing. I've laughed and cried." Yeah, we've definitely spanned the emotional spectrum. And Jude saying, "I heard busy birds talking to each other, and in my heart, I saw saber-toothed tigers or mountain lions and ancestors, and inspired to make a story. Thank you for the inspiration, Team Story." And Hannah says, "This is my first story session. Thank you, Hannah, for coming. And yeah, definitely catch up. Sat in the garden, and a wood pigeon just landed on my fence and coo-coo-cooed a quick hello. Very familiar and comforting." I had a conversation with a robin yesterday, actually. That just reminded me of that. But the noise that I heard, funnily enough, was the whirring of my computer from probably being on for so long. But I think that relates to what I'm taking in my heart, because I was just thinking about how, 8 weeks ago, or a little bit more than that, maybe it was 9 or 10 weeks ago, I woke up at 3 a.m. with an idea of feeling the panic that was settling everywhere and wondering what I could do to help. And 3 a.m, storytelling just came to me. Of like, tell stories. You like telling stories. You have stories to share. Do it. But I knew that it wouldn't be as good to do it alone. And that was what, I sent a Facebook message or whatever it was to Danny and to Chris saying, "Do you want to do this with me? I'm terrified." And it's just grown from there. And so I guess what I wanted to finish with, and what I'm holding in my heart, is look what we can create from 3 a.m. idea. Look what can come if you just, take what feels right and go with it and connect with a community of people who believe in that same vision too. So I'm truly just taking a moment right now to think about, wow, 10 weeks ago, I woke up with a sense of panic going, what can I do? And then here we are today, having amazing conversations and connections, and sharing emotions and, supporting each other. So I definitely want this to continue. I saw somebody in the comments say maybe monthly storytelling, and that's something that's crossed our minds, that maybe we do this once a month. I already have people who've reached out to me saying, I have stories to share and I'd like to do it. I'm scared, but I want to try it. And so I'd love to be able to keep providing this platform for people who are new to storytelling and intimidated, but want to try it, because I think it's just been a wonderful community to do that, very supportive community to just put our stories out there, even if we're not super confident, because practice is how we get to that place. And I know my confidence has built immensely over the past 2 months just from doing this. I made a comment in one of the things on social media when I was sharing today of who knew that I would build my confidence as a storyteller by broadcasting my face through YouTube. But that's what happened. So huge thank you to everybody who've joined us for the first time today, or who have been coming with us every week. It's been wonderful to have you here joining in the discussions, and a big thank you to Danny and to Chris and to Teague and to Landere and to Luke and our future storytellers who will be joining us in coming months as we figure out where this goes next. So with that, thank you. Take care, everyone.
Everybody. Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.